Today's episode of Chat and Chew is sponsored by Be Positive Productions and Multimedia Studios, LLC. I like to think of imagination as something akin to a superpower. Used in the right context for good, it can help bolster our aspirations and propel us closer to our goals. We visualize the outcome of our accomplishments and work toward attaining said thing. However, when used to propagate untruths, reality can become distorted. We no longer know what's real and what's not. The more often we repeat something to ourselves, the more likely it is to become our truth, and the lines between perception and reality begin to blur. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap. Please make sure you follow us on Facebook, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, hit the bell to activate notifications that will remind you when we're on. Please be sure to leave us a comment to let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear from you. Fathers Forever is a nonpartisan organization supporting fathers and families. We welcome all 2024 mayoral candidates to share their platforms on our podcast, fostering open dialogue on important community issues.
Greetings. Welcome to Chat and Chew podcast. My name is Dr. Glenn Warren, and we have some exciting guests. But before we get there, I want you, if you're on Facebook, make sure you like us. Please, if you're on YouTube, hit that little button and subscribe to us. Follow us and let us know how we're doing. Greetings, and I have in the studio today, we're going to have a conversation with one of the mayor candidates, Mr. James Shaughnessy. Make sure I got that.
You got that. You got it. There you go.
He's a very young guy, like 25 years old, but we got to meet him a little while ago, and we've been having some serious conversations. So we're going to talk today about community and leadership, and we also going to talk about fatherhood, even though he's not a father yet. But he's going to share a little bit of his life growing up. And we just want to have a conversation about what he plans to do if he wins this election as mayor. We're going to talk about shelter, homelessness. We're going to talk about mental health, a lot of those things. So grab a cup of coffee, get a muffin, and sit down, and we're going to chat and chew. How about that? Sounds great. So welcome again to the our Chat and Chew podcast, and tell us a little bit about you, Mr. James Shaughnessy IV, right?
That's right.
Tell us a little about who you are.
So, James Shaughnessy IV is pretty good. Named after my grandfather, obviously. He was the second, but I was born and raised right here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah? So I am very blessed to be born in the best city, in the best state, in the best country, and have the opportunity to do service to this place to make it a little bit better.
Right, okay.
I gone to high school here, I'm finishing up my undergraduate here, which I never thought I would do because I hated school growing up.
Okay.
Now I have a very different opinion about learning, and that I'm a Ukrainian war volunteer, veteran. I don't know exactly what title I'm allowed to give myself, but
okay. Tell us a little bit about the experience of going to Ukraine.
Okay, so I'll get started in like how I ended up there. So I knew a friend who volunteered in Syria, and so when the war kicked off in Ukraine, I texted him as like, "Hey, you got to go vacation in Eastern Europe," kind of trying to be a little funny,
right?
And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm going there next week. You want to come with me?" And I thought, okay, well, that's crazy. I'm not going. And, that was the first time that idea popped into my head. But after a lot of thinking and whatnot, this was before I was going to go to school. I was kind of waiting around for school to start. I had a little bit of money saved up. And I kind of like stood in my bedroom thinking about it, pacing back and forth. And I was like, okay, sure. And I bought my plane ticket and then showed up, and kind of that adventure started. I was supposed to meet him there. He got COVID and ended up didn't showing up. So I kind of was in a country all by myself with no connections and kind of made my own way.
Wow.
And, you know, people ask what organization I was part of. There was no organization that I was a part of. The group that I was with was not part of we kind of found our own way through the country and found our own way by doing odd job after odd job. And so it
How long were you over there?
So I was in Eastern Europe for 3 months. One of those months was in Poland, 2 weeks at a time. So I was in for 2 weeks, and then we went into the country for about a month, and then came back for another 2 weeks to Poland, and then went back to Ukraine for another month. So I was in Ukraine for 2 months, and then Poland for a month, just not all at one time.
Right.
And we did a lot of amazing things, whether it was refugee resettlement, casualty evacuation, a lot of, I think one of the key things that I did, and I think I spent the most time on, was training their territorial defense unit to be active duty. So we did a lot of military training. And
you weren't in the military. You were a civilian.
Yes. So I've never been involved. I was never in the military.
Okay.
I was with a lot of veterans of the United States Army and Marine Corps. So I got to offer a very different perspective on what they needed, which was very key. I've owned guns. I've done like small firearm training. So that helped them out with, because, you know, you're getting a bunch of young guys and old guys who've never held a gun before. So we're like, hey, kind of line these things up together, stand this way, look like this, so move like this. Very basic things, but.
So you're very kind of person that love to just kind of go in and experience things. And how do you think your experience that, how do you think that's going to affect your leadership style?
So I think being the only person with sort of some military-ish background, you know, and one of the things that when I was there that I taught was, we taught a lot of medicine stuff. And with teaching that, we kind of talked to these men and said, hey, telling them like, some of you guys aren't going to get back home. And like that was pretty hard to tell them, but that was kind of necessary. And like giving them a real reality about what's going on. A lot of the medicine that they were teaching was outdated. And so we kind of had to teach them about new combat medicine, that like what they had to do and the understanding about how things were going. Like, because with the veterans that I was with, they were very used to the United States having a very good supply, and, you know, if you got injured, they would fly a helicopter out, they would pull you out or something like that. In Ukraine, it was very different. Like, you would put a tourniquet on, hope for the best,
really,
say your prayers, and maybe you'd get to a hospital.
You did a lot of improvising.
Yes. And so that very differences, and that leadership of teaching these young guys about real consequences and, you know, being with them was very, very important.
How do you tell what inspired you to run for mayor, and did that experience in any way help you decide to do that?
So when I came back, I was a bit lost. It didn't feel like home, which kind of killed me a little bit, because Raleigh is home for me. And I, you know, growing up and going on a lot of different vacations and coming back, you know, the air would feel different. It'd feel like a warm blanket coming back over you, or like home again.
Right.
When I came back from Ukraine, it didn't feel like that. I felt very disconnected. And then eventually, luckily, you know, with the help of my friends and my family and, you know, getting my job again and just kind of finding my purpose, I got to get that feeling again, which was very, very helpful.
Good for you.
It was so good. Like one day I woke up and I was like, I'm back. Like which it took a while. And there was a lot of, you know, we'll talk about mental health later. But
yeah.
There was a lot of days where I struggled and I was very angry, and, you know, like, and, you know, it's just part of the process. So even though I didn't really see a lot of combat or anything like that, I kind of understood, you know, when veterans come back, I was like, I kind of got that taste of, you know, that struggle that they got through. And I was like, okay, well, this is real. And got a lot of, one of the things that changed a lot was when I would watch movies, war movies. Like, when you're, you haven't experienced a lot of that, and those emotions that they're portraying, it's still very different than like when you do. And war movies are a little bit more emotional for me right now, and still will be. And I'm very, very grateful that I have had that experience, so I can coolly understand that. But when I kind of saw that there was a lack of leadership, in the mayor's office and the city manager's office, and there needed to be some change to make sure that, people who are younger had a chance in this city, and not just people moving here from other places that have higher, wages, and can compete and buy a house at $300,000, and they're like, oh, this is a great price, and I'm just struggling to
make things
work. That they feel like there's going to be that lack of leadership and that lack of understanding, and also that lack of direction. We've been run by Democrats forever, for like the past 20 years, which no issue with any political party, but being unaffiliated, it gives me a lot of opportunity to change things, and look things at a different perspective. Like being a city that's run by Democrats, being the capital city that houses the General Assembly that's run by Republicans, there's going to be a lot of infighting there because they're batting for other teams. Hopefully, like with the new leadership, especially with leadership that is not affiliated with the party, I can make the changes that Raleigh needs, and then the General Assembly will allow me to maybe make some governmental changes so that Raleigh can be faced in a good direction, and they won't be feeling like the other team is going to get a win. It's not about the other team winning. It's about Raleigh winning and moving in the right direction. Sorry.
That's okay. So what are some of your ideas you have for as housing? I mean, we live in a very competitive housing market. But however, Raleigh has some beautiful homes, as we all know, in and out of the city. But we also have a lot of issue with homelessness. And a lot of people, can't afford the homes. And so what would your vision be for Raleigh if it would come down to making more homes affordable?
So one of the problems that Raleigh faces with housing is that it's the same with everywhere else. Like, there is a housing shortage. There's not enough supply. And the question is, like, how do we get more? And it's a lot more complicated. Like now, like we saw during the presidential debates and vice presidential debates, they talked about housing, which is like one of the first times they've actually talked about it on a national scale. Raleigh is the second fastest growing city in the country after Austin, Texas, which gives a lot of challenges, because if a lot of people are coming here, the housing market is going to dry up. Like when I was shopping for an apartment, most places were like at 90+% capacity occupancy. So like you want a good housing market with about 12% vacancy in the entire city, and we're nowhere near that.
Wow.
And Wake County, 51 people a day are moving here. A little bit over that, but one thing that
are we prepared for that growth?
No. So Raleigh was a great city. The past previous administrations made it a great city, and then everyone found out, and then everyone started moving here, especially with COVID, right? Especially with people kind of seeing the cracks of their own places, whether it's New York or California or Florida, and they wanted new growth, and Raleigh was a great place to find that. Whether we have a virtual workforce, if you can work anywhere, Raleigh's a great place to work, because you can raise a family. We have great parks, we have great restaurants, we have great education, universities. Like a lot of people from out of state come here to go to Duke or NC State or UNC, and it's hard for the locals to compete against these people because they have a lot more money, they have a lot more resources, and it's a very different game that they're playing. And one thing I want to do to make sure that it's an equal playing field is make sure that there's more development for affordability.
Yeah.
It's harder to build affordable housing because of all of the regulations on building housing, and not even like, so having that conversation of like, hey, these regulations, they're not working. Like, what can we remove and streamline so that there is more affordability? I live in a building that was built in 1964, or 1965, one of those, but but like my great grandmother used to live in that building.
Wow.
It's a perfectly safe building to live in. I still live there, and you can't build it anymore. You can't build that exactly identical building because it's out of code. Even though it's completely safe, it's perfectly fine. Having that ability to build something similar is gone because of new developments or new changes in regulation. And so what can we do to make sure that places like that, which are perfectly fine, perfectly safe, buildings can be built again? We need to have that conversation about restructuring our priorities and our regulations so that those places can happen again. And this is not just a North Carolina issue, it's a nationwide issue about how a lot of places are struggling with building housing, not because of the just regulation, but because of the lack of people to build it and the prices of raw goods and stuff like that.
So when you look at when you look at the neighborhoods, talk about housing, when you look at the neighborhoods now, I know you're familiar with the CAC.
Yes.
A few years ago, CAC, they had a lot of opportunity and they had some voting power in the community. They took those things away, and now they're back. What is your take on this whole community getting involved in decisions that's been made for builders or whoever coming to how important is that?
So the CACs, I think, are a really crucial portion of having that community engagement, interact with the city government. I'm really happy that they're coming back. They're kind of in a limbo state because they're not quite sure to what capacity they're going to be coming back.
They don't have any voting powers now?
Not currently, because it's very peculiar because one, not a lot of CACs remained active after their authority got stripped away. So very few of them remained.
So what, as mayor, what would you do to make sure that's coming back to the community?
One thing, we have a new community engagement office, which I think is very good, and I hope to see that that office is used in an effective way to revitalize those CACs. I know the Hillsborough-Wade Avenue CAC is still active. The North or Midtown CAC is still active, but there's a lot of. There used to be 18, and now there's like a handful, like less than a dozen that are still active. And so using that community engagement office to bring back all of those CACs and having them have it, like if they do it once a week or twice or bi-weekly, having that conversation about zoning or concerns is vital so that they can address their concerns at a neighborhood level and not always bring it up to the city council.
Right.
And making sure that, say, for instance, hey, I'm having this issue with, this water runoff. And we talk about that, especially like in Southeast Raleigh, there's some developments that have increased runoff in some areas. How can we address that concern at a neighborhood level? And if we can't address that, then we can, bring it up to the city council to make sure that that's getting addressed instead of, just jumping to there. So if there's like something that the neighborhood can do, and, like one thing I'd like to push forward is like letting private citizens and neighborhoods fix their own neighborhoods on their own, initiative without involving the city and like giving them the authority to do that so that we don't have to hold back a city, city moving.
So years ago when Father Ever got started, or bringing the family part into this, we were invited to a lot of CAC meetings because we talked about fatherhood, and they supported us. They would have food drives. They would have clothes drives. We had supportive housing in the neighborhood, and they was invited to come to support some of the supportive housing. Because what is your tell me your experience about family, how important fatherhood is involved in the planning of the city. When you guys make policies, how important is to make sure that fathers are at the table, kids are doing good in school? What are some of the things that you would love to see happen?
So I think Raleigh, what made Raleigh really, really great in its golden age was there was multi-generational families here. Now, not so much. A large portion of our population have only been here for five years or less, and that trend has continued even after 5 years. So we're just switching people out. And you go up and talk to a lot of the older community that have been here for decades, and they tell you that their loved ones, their daughters, their sons are no longer here. They're somewhere else. And that's sad because, you know, family is the building block of American society. And if we're losing that, it's not good, whether it's the housing crisis or the job opportunity here, or maybe they went to another university and they got to stay in that area. I want to make sure that there are multi-generational families here. You know, my grandparents are here, my mother is here, and I'm here, and I want to stay here, and everyone else wants to stay here as well. And even some of my uncles, like they went to Wilmington, but that's still that's a lot closer than a lot of other families can say.
Right. Yeah.
And so reinforcing the fact that family is important in developing policies and solutions that can make sure that everybody, especially those young people, get a fair shot at staying in the community that their family is in is so important to me, because again, I want to stay here.
Yeah. So you know, for the audience who are listening to us, we're having a conversation with James Shaughnessy, about his run for mayor. As we are Fathers of program, for the audience who maybe don't know who we are. Fathers Forever is a nonprofit organization, and we help men who are, now we have two legs. One is we have transition houses, men that are coming back from prison. We have 38 beds in Wake County. And the other leg is we have a 12-week fatherhood program that, you know, for fathers, you know, for whatever reason, struggling and growing as a father, paying their child support, whatever, they send them to our program. And so our take is very important that if we're going to reduce fatherlessness, we have to have, this have to be a community as well as a government, right, as well as, you know, we don't want government to create fatherhood programs. You don't have to do that. We could do that.
Right.
Just give us the funds to do it. Make sure that's a part of your budget. That, so if we're going to, you know, as you know, we're going to talk about the fentanyl crisis in a few minutes.
Okay.
Drugs that's coming into our communities. Mm-hmm. And these young men sometimes are maybe not motivated, or maybe not have the services that they need. What are some of the things that you want to reach out to young people who just coming on the, you know, just getting out of high school, just getting out of college, and really ready to step into their role as an adulthood? What are some of the things that you would like to see Raleigh provide?
Well, I think that the Wake Tech school system is really good at providing a good step in education without causing a lot of our young population get into debt. If you're graduating high school and you're listening to this, really consider not going to college immediately. I feel like that is where you're going to face a lot, grow a lot more and figure out what you want to do for a career. I did not go to college immediately after high school, and it was the best decision I ever made, and it made me mature. I worked in hospitality. I grew into a management position. While in high school, I was making a lot more money than the people working underneath me who did have college degrees, and that gave me a lot of mobility. I bought a brand new car, as a 19-year-old. I had no right in owning such nice things in such a in that position, but after being there for a few years, I realized that I wanted to get into government, get into law, and then I went back to school.
To your point, I want to stop, but to your point about that, I graduated from high school. I went straight to college. Mm-hmm. 4 years, got out, was working in my field, and then I stumbled on some social work.
Yeah.
And immediately my heart went from being a basketball coach to social work. Yeah. And I had not taken that time
to mature
a little bit.
Yeah.
And I went back to get school and got more training. But that's a good point. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I feel like a lot of people, especially our education system, doesn't a lot. I think with how runs right now, it doesn't allow for a lot of occupational education. You know, back in the day, you had your shop class, your woodworking class.
Yeah, mechanics.
That sort of thing.
Electrician.
Yeah. And if you were good with your hands, or you know, you could figure out like, oh yeah, I could do this for a living. You know,
Right.
And I feel like we need to kind of bring that back, whether bringing back apprenticeships through the tech school system, collaborating with them. I know education is a very big deal in my family because my father was a teacher, and we basically grew up in a library. Like there were books everywhere.
Okay.
And you know, making sure that there is a good reinforcement for these young adults to say, listen, you don't need to get a 4-year degree. You just need to get experience and figure out what you want to give back to provide for your family or community or whatnot. And I feel more apprenticeships and like blue collar jobs are vitally important. I would like to reinforce more blue collar education in high school, maybe even in middle school, so people can have an understanding of like the building up society. Like the Empire State Building was built in a year.
Right.
I don't think we could do that again right now.
So, James, this is real. You know, every time we start to do this, we run out of time. We got a few more minutes, but I want to shift a little bit and talk about mental health. Let's talk about, you know, what is your vision for Wake County as they're dealing with people with substance abuse and mental health issues?
So, I've dealt with my own mental health issues. Every family has, and my sister has a lot. We've had Dorothy Dix Park as a mental health hospital until 2012, and since it's closed, there hasn't been another place for not just like for the like homeless community or you know, to get their treatment, but like suburban families to get treatment as well. My sister, when she needed crucial treatment, she had to go to Tennessee to get it.
Wow.
When my cousin needed crucial treatment, he's in Utah right now getting treatment, and they're missing that family aspect because they're out of state. Yeah. And I want to bring back a some sort of, you know, hospital for treatment. So if you are, you know, middle class family, you can send a loved one there, or whether you're on the side of the street suffering from addiction or some other mental illness, you can find treatment, because, you know, this is not just like a public safety issue, because of this is a human, you know, like humanistic issue where these people need treatment. So I would love to work with local and county and state partners and federal partners to really rebuild a mental hospital here. We have a lot of great universities here that are teaching social work or a psychiatry or something like that, and giving them the experience at a hospital that's local would like increase their educational caliber, as well as it'll help out the people who need it most, and especially our local community in facing those struggles. And I really would love to not just throw the people who are suffering from addiction or mental health into jail or prison. I really would love to give them a good long-term solution towards treatment, so that they can, you know, be the people that they to get back to society.
Support. As a mental health professional, my 25 years with Wake County Human Services as a practitioner, one of the things we wanted to do when a client came to us to need to be hospitalized was trying them somewhere local. You know, Dr. Dix was back then, was around, so that was very local. So you can just tell the family member, they're at Dr. Dix.
No longer
Holding up Dr. Dix.
There's nothing local.
You know, so you have to go to Butner, like you say. And then the other thing was, now it's not now in the community, what's the closest town, where's the closest city at, which could be in Greensboro, it could be wherever. They had a bed opening, which was bad for the family, because some of those families didn't have the transportation to be able to go see their family member that's now located an hour away from, or maybe 2 hours. It's not good for the client, the person who receives services. They're not getting that support every day. They're there with a bunch of strangers. The strangers are there to help them, but when you got the family member comes in, that's a major part. So again, I know we're running out of time, but I want to talk to you about incarceration. I want to talk to you about when fathers are men. We talk about men because that's what we do.
Right.
Women as well. But when we look at what the statistics say, 627,000 fathers incarcerated fathers have kids under 18 compared to 57,000 moms. So you got 627,000 fathers compared to 50,000 moms. How is it, what kind of policy would you try to put in place to help these fathers coming back to the city, whether it's Raleigh, whatever, but especially back to Wake County, that to give them some support? What are some of the policies that you want to put in place that will help these fathers return it back?
Well, I feel like it always starts like with your interaction with policing, and getting them at that initial point before they get into prison is vital. I think that RPD, which, you know, as mayor, I would have some sort of authority over and control to say, I think we want to really revitalize our discretion in those situations so that those fathers don't necessarily have to get arrested and go to jail, and they can have a more community-based approach. So whether you're facing with a drug problem or you're facing some other issue, the police officer can say like, hey, listen, I'm not going to arrest you. I want you to get help, and I want to be that mechanism for help. Here are some resources that can help you, and like let's focus on this together, because I know that putting you in jail or prison is definitely not going to help you, and it's definitely not going to help your family.
Right.
And it's for those people that are coming out, you have a beautiful nonprofit that can assist, and like giving those resources to them and saying these people can help you. You know, it's not like a government thing that's going to help out the most. It's going to be a lot of more community based, whether it is a nonprofit or a church or something like that, or like, you know, maybe they know somebody who, we talked about Sean Ingram earlier today. He went to prison and he got out, and he's built a community and a career to help people out. And like having that resource and that mentor is like, this person went through something similar and built his life back up. You can do the same thing and then release back to support your family. There's a lot of cases of people building up something beautiful and building hope. Like I joke around, like I used to live next to Cameron Village, now the Village District. I was not happy that they changed the name to Village District. I'm happy they changed the name, but like not to something really lame. There's something inspiring about that name, and I want to make sure that when we do things like this or we rename things, that we are building inspiration in our community. So that kind of focus about building inspiration and bringing those stories as like, oh, this is something important and valuable, and like somebody did something important and I can like live up to that expectation, not necessarily to the greatest degree. And I hope that like when I'm this campaign, people can really build some inspiration, especially a lot of young people, like, oh, this person is out there, you know, voicing something for me. I like, what am I doing? And can I like necessarily build that community or that leadership or something that can bring more hope to other people?
So last question, how would you try to handle the fentanyl crisis that's in Wake County? A lot of the drug overdose is really increasing. A lot of people are dying of drugs, and you know, it's in the streets, it's in the community. What are some of the policies you would like to interact that would handle some of this fentanyl crisis that we have?
Well, a lot of the fentanyl comes across the border through cartels, and a lot of people don't realize that the cartels are very active in the area. And so working with our law enforcement, whether it's our local like RPD or Cary PD or something like that, or maybe something or more a state agency or a federal agency, is like, what are we doing to make sure that we're mitigating the risk of fentanyl in our communities? Working with those partners is very, very vital. To make sure that it stays off the streets. There were NC State students who smoked some marijuana and they had fentanyl in there and they died.
Yeah,
that should not be happening.
Well, because now you don't know what you're getting.
Right.
You think you smoke. We have so many people that have come to us and they say, Mr. Glenn, I just smoked weed last night. I didn't have no coke, but yes, coke in your system. Now, when I do the drug test, marijuana, we call it weed, marijuana and coke is in the system. Or they'll say, Mr. Glenn, I just had a joint last night, but yet you tested positive for fentanyl. Yeah. Why? Yeah. Because they put fentanyl in everything now. So you don't know that you're smoking fentanyl, but you are. Yeah. And the issue is that you may not survive that.
Yeah, so, this comes into like being a voice at state politics because we house the state government here. I think eventually there will be a change to decriminalize marijuana and, hopefully regulate the sale of and quality of that in the future. And I would definitely like to see that. Not because of, I don't smoke. I'm not a user. I grew up in hospitality. I knew a lot of people who have used it. And so it's if you'd like to, I really don't care. If you're a private, if you're just want to, how do I say this? If you're just a user, I don't mind. I think, but, this comes in the part where dealers and, people who cut and stuff like fentanyl. Right. That's where the problem really comes in. And
there's trying to be pharmacists and they have no training.
Right. And, I feel like the state needs to kind of pick up the slack on a lot of this stuff to make sure that, in Canada, they regulate a lot of it. And it comes in, they have a little stamp on every piece of marijuana so that that it's safe.
Yeah. So why don't you look into what those scammers over there and tell us a little bit about your campaign in the last days. We coming up to an election in a few days, and tell you how to get up with you and just tell them about you.
My name is James Shaughnessy, and I'm running in a nonpartisan race for mayor, and I'm the only nonpartisan in this race. I've never been affiliated with a party, and I never will, because I feel like party politics at a local level ruin policy, ruin outcomes, and it makes it very difficult for people to make the changes that they need. I like a lot of my competitors for different reasons, but eventually when they have that issue of partisanship, not necessarily the negative partisanship, but just being part of a party, I can see a lot of problems occurring. Being an unaffiliated candidate allows me to have complete authenticity with all of my answers and all of the statements that I'm saying, and a lot of mobility on what policy I can put forward. And I hope that there's plenty of people who are not fully enthusiastic about party leadership that they might consider voting for me. My key elements about my key priorities are going to be housing, mental health, government efficiency, public transit, and 1,000 other things that I probably don't have time to mention. But if you do want to look into my platform, please do look at my website at 𝙤𝙗𝑠𝑦𝑓OR-YOU.com. That is a very long Irish name. Just look up James Shaughnessy or look up the mayoral candidates. You'll see my name, copy and paste that. It'll probably be the easiest way than spelling my name. And just look at what I'm doing. If you have any questions for me, my phone number is on my website. I'm the only mayoral candidate that has their phone number on their website to make sure that I am held accountable, not by a party, but by the people. I don't know anything else I should say.
That's good.
I'm a local guy. I'm working class. I don't come from money. I've never had money before. It means nothing to me. And I feel like I can represent a lot of the key issues that a lot of people face. The average age of a Raleighite is 34. I'm 25 right now, and most of them rent. I rent right now, and they make about $45,000 a year. I'll be making about that same amount this year, and I'm working towards building a better future, not just for myself, but for the city, and I hope that you can join me on this journey. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. There are a lot of issues that don't get to be addressed on my website merely because it is so much reading, and my campaign advisors told me not to put everything on there. So if you have any question about anything specific towards you or an issue that I might not be addressing, please reach out. I'm sure that we can work together to make a policy-based solution to make it happen. My campaign slogan is "Let's make it happen," because it takes all of us together to come together and make a solution for everyone. And I hope that I can be that vehicle for change, and I hope that you would be able to join me in making sure that everyone gets a voice in that vehicle for change, to make sure that these policy changes work for everybody and not just me or a part.
Thank you, sir, so much, James.
Thank you.
Good luck to you in the polls.
I appreciate that.
Great, great. So to our audience, I want to thank you for tuning in today. And again, our Facebook, go and like us, share us, our YouTube, subscribe to us. And it's been a very, very, very good conversation with the mayor candidate once again. And I thank you for coming in and being a part of our podcast. And I will say until we meet again,
Yes, sir.
so long. Here's 3 ways you can support our Dads at a Distance initiative. Give a copy to a family member, a friend.
Cool.
Donate monthly, a book monthly, 5 books monthly, how many books you want to do monthly donation. Reverse book signing, your church, your business. You can make a donation go to our website at www.afatherforever.com and go to our PayPal at Fathers Forever. Our Cash App is $Fathers Forever. Make your donation today. Please include in the note section, include DAAD. Again, it's include in the note section DAAD.
If you or someone you know would like to be a part of the show, please visit our website at www.afatherforever.com or call us at 919-779-9905. The Chat and Chew podcast streams Thursdays at 8 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. To schedule a reverse book signing or to find out more information about how you can become a part of the programs you've heard us mention today, please be sure to stop by our website as well.
Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Warren, founder and executive director of Fathers Forever. I want to share an alarming reality with you. 627,000 fathers are incarcerated that have kids under 18. Now, there are 56,000 moms incarcerated who have kids under 18. The reality is there are so many more fathers incarcerated than moms. This is why I Am a Father Forever book exists. Now, I need your help. I am inviting you to help us get this book into as many fathers incarcerated as possible. Here's how it works. For your donation of $22, we will provide a book to an incarcerated father. Thank you in advance for helping Fathers Forever heal fathers and save families.
Fathers Forever is a nonpartisan organization supporting fathers and families. We welcome all 2024 mayoral candidates to share their platforms on our podcast, fostering open dialogue on important community issues.